Hi, it's Adam from Coconut here, and this is Whiteboard Weekly number 66. So in this Whiteboard Weekly, I'm going to do a franchise recruitment update when looking at the Google search traffic to give us indications of how many people are looking at franchising, what's the interest like at this point in time. Now, I do these updates quite often, so it's quite interesting to look back at trends in the past as well and see how they may give us some insights into what we will see in the future. So overall, looking at January 2024 so far, as expected, there has been a spike in overall search traffic on Google. Now, I think Google gives us a really good representation of how many people are looking at franchising at any one point in time, because obviously when someone's looking to invest in a franchise, they're going to Google around franchising lots of times before probably making that decision. And what we've seen in January so far is that there has been a spike in traffic, certainly up from what we saw at the end of 2023. Now, one of the trends which I think has definitely happened since the pandemic is, I think if you speak to people that have worked in franchise recruitment or around franchising for a long time, it's been very, very seasonal in terms of when leads are generated and the interest around franchising. And I think typically we've often spoke with a graph something like this. We see a big spike of interest in January going through February, that then kind of dips down as the year goes on, comes right down during the summer months, comes back, not as strong as we see in January, but fairly strong in September. And then as the year goes on and certainly into December, the interest going down. Now, that still applies, however, not in the way quite as dramatic as we used to see. So actually some of the strongest months last year, or certainly the drop-off wasn't as big during the summer last year, and the drop-off hasn't been as big in December this year as we would typically see. Why that trend has changed, I'm not so sure. I don't know with your own inquiries and traffic if you've noticed the same, but months that used to be very, very quiet now are not so quiet. And maybe the months that really used to be big and strong are not quite as big as strong as they used to be, and the trend's more flat. Looking back at the data over a 5-year period, I think the really good news is that 2023, overall looking at the whole year, there was more search traffic around franchising than we've seen over the past 5 years. Now, the pandemic certainly impacted franchise traffic in general, other than a few times when we come out of lockdown and the traffic kind of peaked, was fairly low. And then it recovered probably fairly well over the next couple of years. However, 2023 was much stronger. And in fact, the overall search traffic in 2023 was probably higher than what we saw before the pandemic in 2018, 2019, which gives us some really, really good kind of feelings about what 2024 could be like. Going back all time, so from Google records starting, looking at the search traffic, we're still nowhere near the kind of interest in franchising, the searches that we saw during 2008, 2009, 2010, the years following the last recession and the credit crisis. So we're still not quite there yet. Will we get back there? I'm not totally sure we will do this year, because what we know, and if you plot the graph on search traffic, whenever there is any type of uncertainty, the interest or search traffic around franchising does dip down. Over the last 10 years, there has been so many different examples of this and so much uncertainty around. Going back 5 or 6 years ago, it was general elections. Then Brexit caused a kind of year of uncertainty, which really impacted search traffic in franchising. Just as that kind of got better, we then had the pandemic. And then obviously since the pandemic, we've had lots of things around cost of living, which again kind of impacts. So all of this uncertainty doesn't help us. But I do wonder whether we're in a period this year where we're almost certain there's going to be uncertainty. It's certain uncertainty, and whether that's helping people to kind of make decisions and start searching around for what they want to do in the future. So overall, traffic so far this year has looked really, really positive. I'll be really interested to hear what your trends around lead generation and leads into the franchise have been over the last few months, and interested to hear your thoughts on what you think 2024 could be like.